The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was enormous. Its walls shimmered with energy, casting colors that no human eye had names for. Hundreds of species filled the room, beings of every imaginable shape, size, and form. Some had wings, some had scales, some had glowing limbs. All of them had power. All of them commanded respect. And then there was Carter. He was human, ordinary, small in the eyes of this galaxy. No special armor, no history of victories, no mighty army. Just a single blue patch on his chest, the symbol of a planet called Earth. A planet that had nearly been destroyed and yet still fought to survive. Whispers filled the hall like a rising wind. "Why is he here?" hissed a silver-scaled being. "They call him a hero, but he is weak." "He does not belong in the presence of the Queen," another said. Could feel their eyes, sharp, judging, questioning. Their whispers brushed against him like cold knives. His hands trembled slightly, though he tried to hide it behind his back. His legs wanted to buckle, but he forced them to stay strong. From the highest balcony of the hall, the enormous doors began to open. The air seemed to shift. Every being in the room instinctively bowed. Some knees even touched the ground before they knew why. The presence that entered was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The alien queen. She glided down the steps. Her silver skin shimmered with every color of light. Her eyes were like twin stars, infinite and impossible. Her voice, when she spoke, felt like it reached into the mind without asking. She carried an aura of power, calm, and authority so strong that even the fiercest warlords of the galaxy seemed to shrink. All eyes followed her, every being in the hall except. He froze. Not out of arrogance, not because he wanted attention, but because his heart pounded like a drum in his chest and he felt the weight of a million whispers of doubt pressing down on him. As she descended, the Queen's gaze swept across the crowd. Then, impossibly, she stopped, and the room seemed to hold its breath. She was looking directly at him. Two guards, taller than most humans could ever imagine and armed with weapons that could destroy worlds, stepped forward. "The human must not approach," one hissed, his voice tight with fear and authority. "Move him," snapped another. They reached for his arms. His first instinct was to struggle. His second instinct was to run, but before they could pull him away, the Queen spoke. "Stop." The word echoed in every mind in the room. The guards froze, the murmur of the crowd faded. The room went silent. Slowly she moved down the final steps. The air around her seemed alive, shimmering and vibrating. Then she did something no one expected. She walked directly to the empty seat next to. Gasps exploded around the hall. Every council member froze. The most powerful being in the galaxy, the Queen herself, had chosen to sit beside a human that they had all wanted removed. Felt his knees weaken. He lowered himself slowly into the chair. His hands gripped the arms as if letting go might mean everything would collapse. The Queen's eyes softened as she looked at him. There was no judgment there, no superiority, only recognition. "You are afraid," she said, her voice soft but clear enough for him to hear alone. "Yes," admitted, his throat dry, "but I will not leave." Her gaze lingered on him, and for a brief moment, the noise of the hall disappeared. She turned to the council and spoke words that carried across every mind in the room. "You judge him by the flesh, by the body you can touch. You see weakness, but you do not see what he has endured. You do not see courage." Whispers rose again, this time quieter, uncertain. Even the most seasoned leaders of countless worlds felt their hands tremble. The Queen leaned slightly toward. "He comes from a world that has faced extinction and refused to beg. He comes from a species that keeps walking even when it breaks." His chest tightened. For years, humans had been called fragile, weak, and disposable by the galaxy. Here now, one of the most powerful beings alive had just said that he and his people mattered, that they had value beyond what anyone could imagine. The room remained silent, the council's whispers reduced to nothing but fear and awe. For the first time in his life, felt the weight of destiny press on him, but not like a burden, like a spark, like a chance. The alien Queen smiled faintly, and the whispers of the galaxy faded into the background. All that remained was one human and the being who had chosen to believe in him. And that was enough. The council hall had fallen silent, but the tension did not fade. Every delegate, from the smallest to the largest crystalline giant, stared at with suspicion. Their eyes burned with judgment. They could not understand why the queen, their ruler, had chosen to sit beside a human, a species they had long considered weak and unworthy. "Why him?" hissed a tall, green-scaled creature from the upper gallery. Its voice rattled like metal chains. "He is nothing, a weak human. He should not be allowed here." "Silence," the queen's voice rang, sharper than any weapon. "You will not speak of him that way. He has done what your empires could not. He has saved lives, lives you do not even comprehend." His throat tightened. His heart pounded as every gaze weighed him down. For years, humans had been considered fragile, incapable of real strength. Here in this hall, he was expected to prove them wrong or be destroyed. The queen leaned closer, her silver skin shimmering in the council lights. "They judge you by the body," she said softly so only could hear, "but your courage is in your spirit. Never forget that." Swallowed and nodded, he took a deep breath and forced his voice to be steady. "I am ready." The council's whispers began again, louder this time. They were angry, some whispered threats, others muttered disbelief. They wanted to push him out, they wanted him gone. A figure emerged from the shadows, the Iron Sovereign. His body was forged from living metal and every movement made a grinding sound. "This is absurd," he roared. "You let a human sit beside the queen? One human cannot hold the weight of your galaxy. Remove him at once." The queen's eyes glowed. "He is not here to carry your fears. He is here to show you the truth you refuse to see." Swallowed, he could feel the anger in the room, the distrust. He could feel the hatred. But he also felt something new, a spark of power, the quiet trust of the queen beside him. That tiny belief made him stand taller, even as his body shook. "You wish to know why I am here?" asked. His voice trembled, but he pushed forward. "Because my people chose to fight when we had no chance. We faced enemies who could destroy planets, star systems, entire civilizations. We had nothing but courage, nothing but will, and the hope that our sacrifice could give someone else a chance to survive." The hall went silent. Every being listened, compelled despite themselves. Even tilted his head, intrigued despite his anger. "They came for your world first," continued, his voice steadying. "We intercepted the signal knowing we could not win. Our fleets were small, our weapons primitive, and yet we went anyway. We slowed them. We bought time for your people to prepare." The queen's eyes never left him. She leaned closer, almost as if she wanted to shield him from the weight of the room. Her presence alone made the hall quiet in awe. His voice grew firmer. "We lost many, millions, children, cities, lives, but we did not give up, we did not surrender. And even now we survive because hope cannot die even in the smallest of humans." A holographic display rose above the hall, showing images of Earth during the war. Cities burning under alien fire, oceans boiling, planes and ships crashing into fiery skis, soldiers falling, civilians fleeing. His voice was steady, but his eyes shone with the memory of the horrors he had witnessed. "We were broken," he said quietly, "and yet we kept walking. That is why I am here, not to beg, not to plead, but to remind you that even the smallest, weakest beings can change the course of the galaxy if they refuse to give up." The council members' eyes widened. Some shifted nervously in their seats. They had mocked humans for centuries, called them weak, fragile, irrelevant, yet here in front of their queen, they could not deny the courage of one human standing alone against impossible odds. His voice cut through the silence. "Enough," he shouted. "Even if he speaks of courage, it does not change the truth. Humans are weak. They cannot survive in this galaxy. They do not belong." The queen rose. Every being in the hall froze. She towered over the Iron Sovereign, radiant and unyielding. "He does not belong because you fear what you cannot understand. Fear blinds you. Strength is not always in weapons, nor in armies, nor in size. Strength is in sacrifice, in courage, in the will to endure when everything falls apart." Looked at her, his heart hammering. He had expected rejection. He had expected ridicule. Instead, he found support, belief, and a queen who had seen his worth even when the entire galaxy doubted him. For the first time in his life, he felt truly seen. And he knew in that moment that no council, no warlord, no empire could ever push him away from this moment, or from her. The room still buzzed with tension, but a seed had been planted. A seed of respect, of awe, of fear mingled with admiration. Carter, the human no one thought could matter, had begun to change the minds of a galaxy. And the Queen smiled faintly beside him, as if to say, this is only the beginning. The council hall had fallen into a tense silence, but the memory of what had said still hung in the air like smoke. The delegates could not ignore it, not entirely. Even the Iron Sovereign seemed unsettled, but doubt was dangerous in this room. Anger filled the void. Took a deep breath. He knew words alone could not convince them. They had never seen Earth's courage. They had never seen humanity fight when everything was lost. And so he spoke with his heart, not just his voice. They came for your world first, he said. His eyes shone with memory. Ships larger than cities, weapons that could erase planets, forces no one could withstand, and we faced them anyway. A hush swept the hall as he described it. The delegates leaned forward, curious despite themselves. They wanted to see weakness, and instead they saw defiance. They wanted to see fear, and instead they saw courage. His voice trembled for a moment, not from fear, but from the weight of the memories. Our fleets were small, our soldiers ordinary, but we had no choice. If we did not fight, your world and ours would fall immediately. We fought knowing we would lose, knowing many would die. And yet we rose anyway, because we had to. The Queen's eyes shone like stars. She nodded ever so slightly, giving him strength. He pressed on. The sky was burning, said. Oceans boiled, cities turned to ash, families vanished. And yet we flew into fire, into death, into the impossible. We slowed the enemy just enough for your people to prepare, to survive. We gave our lives so that yours could continue. Images rose above the hall, shimmering holograms of Earth under siege. Cities crumbled. Fires spread. Ships exploded. Waves swallowed everything in their path. Human soldiers clashed with enormous alien invaders. Children ran for cover, screaming, their hands held by adults whose eyes reflected fear and determination alike. His hands clenched at his sides. We were not heroes, not in the way you think. We were scared, we cried, we lost everything, yet we did not surrender. Even in death, we kept fighting. Even in despair, we chose courage. And that is why I am here. A murmur ran through the council. Some delegates could not look at him, some shifted nervously. No one had spoken with such raw honesty before. They had heard stories, tales of human weakness. But this was something real. This was truth. His mechanical voice boomed, sharp and cold. You claim courage human, but what is left of your species? What remains after this fire you call survival? His chest tightened. We are few, he admitted. Less than 1 million remain, but those who survived carry the strength of billions. Every life lost strengthened our will. Every city burned made our courage brighter. We may be small now, but we endure. The council trembled at the weight of his words. The Queen leaned closer, resting her hand lightly on his arm, a gesture of reassurance. He speaks truth, she said, and that truth is stronger than any empire, any army, any weapon. His eyes met hers. In that gaze he found not pity but respect, not fear but belief. He felt the courage he had carried alone for so long being reflected back at him. For the first time he realized that he was not merely a survivor. He was a symbol, a spark, a reminder that even the smallest species could alter the fate of the galaxy. Then he continued, his voice steadier now. We humans chose to burn so that others could live. We faced extinction without surrendering. And in doing so, we proved that courage is not measured by size or strength. It is measured by the will to stand when everything falls. The hall went silent once more. The delegates stared, some with shame, some with awe. Evan's mechanical fists clenched at his sides. The Iron Sovereign had never encountered defiance like this. Not from an individual, not from a species he had always considered insignificant. The Queen's eyes glimmered. He fought when none could, and he stood when no one else dared. That is why he sits here today. That is why he matters. Looked around the hall, he saw fear, disbelief, respect creeping slowly into even the most stubborn hearts. He felt the truth of his people's struggle resonate here in this chamber. He felt the weight of the past and the hope of the future pressing into his chest. For the first time, he understood that humanity's story was no longer just about survival. It was about recognition, about earning a place in a galaxy that had long ignored them. And the Queen, beside him, gave him the courage to believe that they could finally claim it. Because sometimes, realized, the world does not change with weapons or armies. It changes when one small human refuses to surrender, when one heart refuses to break. And today, that heart had begun to turn the galaxy. The hall had quieted after's words, but the silence was fragile. Not everyone was convinced. Not everyone could see what the Queen had seen. Fear and anger coiled in the hearts of many delegates ready to strike. The Iron Sovereign stepped forward, every movement of his metal body ground like thunder across the chamber. "Enough!" he roared, his voice shaking the walls. "This human claims courage, but he is nothing. A single human cannot carry the weight of this galaxy. Remove him at once." Gasps rippled through the hall. Some delegates shifted nervously, others whispered agreements. They had long hated humanity, called it weak, fragile, unworthy. They thought the Queen's favor was foolish, dangerous even. Did not move, he looked at not with fear but with steady defiance. "I will not leave," he said simply. The Queen rose from her seat, her silver body radiating a light so strong it made every eye in the hall ache. "He will not leave," she said calmly, yet every word carried the weight of storms. "He has already saved lives your fleets could not. He has faced extinction and stood. He is not here to please you. He is here to remind you what courage truly is." His mechanical arms flexed. "Then you choose a human over the balance of the galaxy?" he demanded. "Over the future of countless species?" "Yes," the Queen replied, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. "Because balance built on fear is not balance. Strength built on cowardice is not strength. He may be small, but he has a heart no empire can crush." The council erupted. Screams, claws scraping floors, voices shouting in dozens of languages. Weapons powered up around the hall. Blades of light hummed, plasma cannons began to glow. Chaos threatened to consume the room. His heart pounded, but he did not flinch. He could feel every pair of eyes on him, some questioning, some filled with hatred, some trembling in fear. And at his side, the Queen's hand rested lightly on his arm, grounding him, giving him strength. His armies surged forward. Robots and warriors, trained for war beyond imagination, filled the chamber. The Queen's guards met them, silver and radiant, their weapons like stars in motion. Stumbled backward as an explosion rocked the floor. Dust and smoke filled the hall. He coughed, covering his face. He could see fire, sparks, creatures thrown through the air. Every instinct told him to run. Every instinct told him to survive. But the Queen's presence reminded him why he could not. "She is right," he whispered to himself. "Strength is not just in weapons. Strength is in the will to stand." His voice boomed again. "He will die here, and your precious Queen will fall with him." The human grit in his chest hardened. He looked around, taking in the chaos. A group of soldiers cornered a small creature, ready to strike. Without thinking, leaped forward, knocking the attacker aside. He did not have weapons, only courage and a burning desire to protect life where he could. The Queen's eyes followed him. A small smile touched her lips. "Yes," she whispered, "you are human, and that is why you matter." Enraged, fired a weapon aimed directly at the Queen. Light arced across the chamber. Smoke and heat filled the hall. The Queen's guards moved instantly, forming a shield of silver and energy. Felt the blast before he saw it. It tore through the space near him, throwing him backward across the hall. Pain seared his side. His body hit the floor hard, and for a moment he saw the stars spinning above him through the broken ceiling. The Queen moved like a living storm. Light poured from her, sweeping through forces, knocking machines apart, disarming warriors. The power of a star condensed in motion. And yet saw something he had not expected. Had aimed for her, not for the council, not for himself. The weapon glowed, charged to destroy the Queen completely. His chest tightened. He did not think, he did not calculate. Instinct took over. He pushed himself forward, throwing his body in front of her. The blast hit him full. Pain exploded. Light seared across his skin. Darkness threatened to swallow him. He felt the Queen's hands grasp him, warmth pouring through the agony. "No," she screamed, her voice tearing through the hall like a hurricane. And for a heartbeat, everything stopped. The world seemed to hold its breath. Every delegate froze, every weapon paused mid-strike, Even's voice cut short. The human lay on the floor, broken, blood mixed with dust. Smoke curled around him, and yet he had saved her. The queen knelt beside him, silver hands trembling slightly as she pressed against his chest. His eyes fluttered. A faint heartbeat remained. Slaughter turned to disbelief. "See," he snarled, "weak." The queen glared at him, eyes burning brighter than any sun. "Weak," she hissed. "He is stronger than any of you have ever known." Lips parted, his eyes opened just enough to meet hers. "Protect them," he whispered, then darkness claimed him. The hall shook, not with weapons, but with the fury of a queen who had just seen what it meant to lose the one who had risked everything for her. The blast had hit full force. Smoke and fire filled the council hall. Delegates screamed, weapons fired, and chaos roared like a living creature. But in the middle of the destruction, one thing remained clear. He had saved the queen. Lay on the floor, his chest burning, his vision blurred. The world felt heavy, as if gravity itself had doubled its weight. Pain seared through his limbs, but he could still hear her voice, the queen's voice, calling his name. "She is safe," he whispered, barely audible. "That is all that matters." The queen knelt beside him. Her silver hands trembled slightly as she touched his face. "Do not leave me," she said, her voice breaking for the first time in centuries. Her eyes, twin stars of infinite light, glimmered with fear and rage. Mechanical laughter rang through the hall. "See," he snarled. "Weak, fragile, a human, you rely on something so meaningless to protect your queen." The queen's gaze snapped to him. Her light flared, illuminating the hall like the birth of a sun. "He is stronger than you will ever understand," she hissed. "He stood when all others would have fallen. He gave everything to protect what matters most. And you, your empire built on fear, will crumble because of it." Armies surged again, trying to take advantage of fallen state. The queen moved with impossible speed. She unleashed beams of energy that tore through steel, crushing machines and disarming soldiers in a single motion. The air around her shimmered, bending reality itself. Struggled to move. His body screamed at him to stay down, to accept defeat, to give up. But his heart would not allow it. He had fought his entire life for moments like this, for people, for life, for hope. He pushed himself forward. Each movement was agony. Each breath felt like fire in his lungs. And yet he forced himself to rise. Raised a weapon, aiming directly at the queen again. This time didn't hesitate. He threw himself forward, body colliding with the weapon. Sparks and energy exploded around him. Pain ripped through every nerve, but he remained. He was a shield, a barrier, a human refusing to break. The queen roared, a sound that shook the walls of the council hall and beyond. Light burst from her body, a wave of pure energy, scattering forces. Machines crumpled, soldiers fell back, and the Iron Sovereign himself staggered under the force. Felt himself being lifted off the floor. The queen held him close, her light pouring into him. He could feel warmth spreading through his body, mending burns, soothing broken bones, igniting a strength he did not know he still had. He gasped, pain still remained, but he could move. He could stand, and he could see. "Stay with me," the queen said softly. Her hand rested on his chest, steadying him. "You are not done, you will not leave." His voice trembled. "Impossible," he muttered. "A human alive after that." The queen's eyes blazed. "He is not just alive, he is a symbol, a reminder that courage does not belong to the mighty. It belongs to those who refuse to surrender even when all seems lost." His chest heaved. He looked at the council around them. Delegates who moments before had spoken of fear and weakness now stared in awe. Some whispered, some bowed, some trembled, even faltered, unsure how to respond. His lips curved into a small, tired smile. "This is what we do," he whispered. "We stand, we fight, we protect even when we should break." The queen nodded, a single tear of light shimmering down her cheek. "And that, Carter, is why you are here, why you matter." The hall was still, the echoes of the battle fading. Smoke curled around broken pillars and sparks floated like fireflies in the aftermath. But one thing was clear: humanity's courage had survived. One human, alone against impossible odds, had stood tall. And the galaxy had seen it. His hands trembled slightly as he sat up, leaning against the Queen. His body was battered, but his spirit remained unbroken. Around him, the council began to change. Fear was giving way to respect. Hatred was giving way to awe. The Queen's voice echoed, soft yet unyielding. No one will ever call humanity weak again. Not after this, not ever. Looked at her, and in that moment he realized something profound. Strength was not in size, not in weapons, not in fleets of soldiers. Strength was in courage. Strength was in sacrifice. Strength was in the human heart that refused to break. And in that hall, under the shattered light and the quiet hum of awe, humanity had shown the galaxy its true power. The hall had become a battlefield. Smoke twisted around shattered pillars. Sparks and flames danced across the floor, and its armies, though numerous, faltered under the weight of the Queen's power. But she did not stop. She could not stop, not until justice was done. Sat beside her, breathing heavily, his body still trembling from the blast that had nearly claimed his life. He looked at the Iron Sovereign, who now staggered under the raw fury of the Queen. Metal scraped metal as tried to regain control, but even his armies hesitated, sensing the unstoppable force that stood before them. "You called him weak," the Queen's voice boomed, echoing across the hall. "You judged his species, you believed courage could be measured in size, weapons, or armies, and now you will see the truth." With emotion almost too fast to follow, the Queen raised her arms. Light poured from her like a river of stars. The air quaked. Sparks and dust were swept upward, forming a whirlwind that tore through forces. Machines twisted and collapsed. Soldiers fell back, shielding themselves. The Iron Sovereign's metal body creaked and strained under the force of a power no weapon could withstand. Tried to stand to help, but the Queen held him close. Her hands glowed with a healing light that seeped into him, knitting broken bones, sealing burns, soothing pain. The warmth flowed through his chest, reminding him of why he had stood, why he had risked everything. "You saved my people once," the Queen said softly, almost to herself, though every delegate heard her. "And you saved me with your courage. Now I will repay that debt." Roared, raising a massive energy weapon to fire again. But before he could strike, a beam of pure light shot from the Queen's hands, slicing through the weapon, disintegrating it into particles of glowing metal. The Iron Sovereign staggered, sparks flying from every joint. "You rule through fear," the Queen said, her voice like thunder. "He rules through sacrifice." The hall shook as she unleashed her power. Waves of light and energy ripped through forces. Massive machines tore apart. Soldiers and units were thrown back, scrambling to survive. The Iron Sovereign stumbled, caught in a torrent of energy too powerful for even him to resist. Watched in awe, not fear. He could feel the raw strength of a queen who had chosen to protect, who had chosen to fight for courage, for honor, for justice. He realized then that his sacrifice had not been in vain, that even in weakness, even in the body of a single human, strength could exist. The Iron Sovereign raised one last arm, trying to strike at the Queen. But with a motion that seemed almost gentle, she touched his chest. His metal body shattered piece by piece until nothing remained but silence and dust. The council trembled. Delegates who had once whispered about weakness now stared in awe. The galaxy had witnessed a power, that imagination. And in the center of it, the human who had dared to stand had survived. The Queen lowered gently to the floor. He gasped, chest rising and falling, blood still streaked across his uniform. But he smiled faintly, exhausted and alive. "She is safe," he whispered, "and that is all that matters." The Queen looked at him, her eyes softening. "No," she said, "that is not all. You have shown the galaxy the true meaning of courage. You have saved countless lives. You have proven that humanity is not weak, that it is not to be dismissed. You have done what no one else could." Swallowed, his lips trembling. I only did what I had to," he said quietly. The Queen shook her head. "You did more than anyone could expect. You gave hope when none existed. You stood when all others would fall. And now, because of you, the galaxy will never forget the name of humanity." Around them, the hall was silent except for the quiet hum of damaged energy systems. Delegates stared in shock, some bowing, some trembling. Even those who had despised humans before could not deny what they had witnessed. A species that had been called fragile, weak, insignificant, had shown courage that rivaled the mightiest in the galaxy. Looked at the Queen, and for the first time he felt truly seen, not as a human, not as a soldier, but as a symbol of sacrifice, courage, and unbroken will. The Queen smiled faintly, lifting him to his feet. "The galaxy has learned today that strength does not come from size or power," she said. "Strength comes from the heart, from courage, from those who refuse to give up, and that, Carter, is why you are here." Felt his chest swell with emotion. He had survived, yes. But more than that, he had proven that humans could matter, that humans could fight, and that humans could inspire even the most powerful beings in the galaxy. And in that moment, standing beside the Queen who had chosen to believe in him, knew that everything had changed. Humanity had survived, humanity had triumphed, and humanity had earned its place among the stars.